Tiger fans, what's going on, guys? True to my word, I'm back. Trade deadline is come and gone, and I'm sorry for the leave of absence for this long a period of time. I know this season I have not made videos consistently. I don't know what the second half of the season is going to look like if I'm going to start coming on here weekly again and start doing weekly Sunday videos. Like I said in my last video that my brother and I did, I just don't want to come on here and complain and rant and say the same thing every single week. So the timeline I set for coming on here post trade deadline, I felt was appropriate to let time go by. Honestly, there was quite a few weeks I could have came on and said a lot of positive things because there was, a lot of winning at one point in time. But let's jump on right into this. So this is going to be the first trade deadline in 2 years where I'm not coming on here fuming, mad, and pissed. You recall the last couple of years, Al Avila, that was the one that put me over the top on him, where he did nothing, sat on his hands, just horrible returns. And then Scott Harris, his first trade deadline, the whole Erod debacle. He only traded Lorenzen for Hao-Yu Lee, and I was just absolutely pissed about what had happened. So the Tigers were fairly active this trade deadline, kind of how I thought they would be. Honestly, I didn't know if they were going to trade more than they did because of, Jason Foley and Tyler Holton. I wasn't Shelby Miller, Andy Ibanez, Carson Kelly. There was pieces on the roster that, were tradable assets for contending teams. And this trade deadline, was a lot of contenders trading with contenders. And, the teams that were sellers all pretty much sold out. Like the Marlins sold a bunch of players today. Like completely sold out. The White Sox made quite a few trades. So, I really thought with the pitching market and really the Tigers having a few really good relievers in their bullpen they could have dealt. I'm honestly surprised more moves didn't happen. But I kind of think with the state of the franchise and how pitching thin they are, they probably only wanted to move certain guys. And with how Chafin's been missing bats and, his stuff has really come back and his command has gotten better, it made sense for him to get dealt. So I think we'll start in order of occurrence. So first trade that happened, and I was not surprised about this, is Carson Kelly got dealt to the Texas Rangers. And wasn't surprised. This is honestly, you got to give Scott Harris some praise. As much as I've bitched at him and much as I've complained about his philosophies and his stubbornness to promote prospects and all this other stuff, I'm going to tip my hat to him on this one because Carson Kelly was a guy that nobody wanted last year. They took him, signed him again, and turned this guy around into a top 15 offensive catcher in the league. I think it might be even top 12 offensive catcher in the league. Really caught fire in June. His power came back. His average come back up. So they traded him. And please bear with me here because I have like 10,000 tabs open because I wanted to get all these prospects up for you guys. All right, for Liam Hicks and Tyler Owens. Now, Liam Hicks is a catcher, designated hitter, and first baseman. Him and Tyler Owens are both at Double-A Frisco. Hicks so far in the years has a triple slash of 260, 364, 353, 15 doubles, 4 homers, but 41 strikeouts, 44 strikeouts to 41 walks. So this is kind of like a Justin Henry Malloy profile in the dirt, obviously, catcher, first baseman. I don't know how good defensively he is. I think what I had heard when people were talking about it, I think he actually grades out pretty okay defensively. But the hit tool, there's a bit of a question of how much power he's going to hit for and how high of an average he's going to have in the major leagues. Typical Scott Harris guy, high on base percentage, very much like when Justin Henry Malloy got traded over from Atlanta. You look at his last year where he was in Double-A for the bulk of the year, where he had like 119 walks, to 100 strikeouts. And although that pace hasn't carried up in the major leagues, he was still close to that in Triple-A as well. So another guy noted for swing decisions, gets on base, doesn't strike out a lot, makes contact, but the power might not ever be there because he only ever hit 11 home runs in 4 seasons, and he's only hit how many doubles? 39 doubles. So it's going to be kind of, I don't know if this guy looks as like a backup catcher, first baseman, wherever he's going to stick defensively. The offensive upside doesn't look there, but he could be an organizational depth piece that grows, And with trading Carson Kelly, it opened up a spot for Dylan Dingler, and Dylan Dingler made his MLB debut yesterday. He did contribute in the horrific series it was to the Guardians. That was a piss poor 2 games. Tigers offense looked like absolute shit, but that is another video for another time. But yeah, he could be a backup catcher, could be a backup first baseman. I don't know how he's ever going to be a backup first. When you play on the corner and you have that little amount of power, that's just really hard to play you in that spot. Like, you got to hit for more power than that. Now, Tyler Owens, I think that this guy, he might have a chance to contribute next year, because he's already in Double-A, 331, 280 ERA. He in 35 innings, 9 walks to 35 strikeouts, mid-90s fastball, decent slider. I don't know if scouts would consider it a plus pitch, but if you watch him, he almost looks like Mike Clevenger in his windup, like very herky-jerky, but really gets on you fast because of his motion, his delivery. I think he's a guy that, definitely profiles as a reliever, and I think he's a guy that could be up in the big leagues sooner rather than later. Maybe early 2025. I doubt late 24, because the Tigers have a thing about a boner about everybody has to play in AAA before they play in the big leagues, even though it used to be, guys would come up from AAA. And I think with how thin their pitching staff is, and now they're losing people out of the bullpen, like Andrew Chafin, they have to do something to replace these arms, because they've had nothing but, 3 bullpen games in the last 8 days. So, and now they lost Jack Flaherty. So I don't know, what they're going to do, but I'm excited about this arm. I think he's a guy that's a really close contributor, as quick as next year. All right, so this trade right here, so let's go in order here. So that was Carson Kelly, and then they acquired Ricky Vanasco. That was from the Dodgers. I think that was just money, not a real big deal. Probably somebody that'll never really impact the big league club. And then we move up to the next trade, which is the Rangers got Andrew Chafin. And in this trade, they got Jose Montalvo and Chase Lee for Andrew Chafin. Now, this Chase Lee guy, he is another pitcher. He's in AAA, and I think this is a guy that has a chance to come up this season, because now with the shortness in the bullpen, where you lose your best lefty, your best strikeout lefty, you need somebody up in the big leagues to replace him. And with how they've been having bullpen days, you look the other day, who was it? Salmons, a guy that was independent ball. They bring him out after Bo Brissy kind of shit the bed in the first inning, and then he goes 7 1/3. I mean, the Tigers didn't care what that kid did. They were riding him out to the end. So, with them bringing up guys like that and to cover that many freaking innings, I think it was one of the longest starts by a Tigers starter this year, which is kind of nuts. But anyways, he's already in AAA as of this year. So far in 2024, between 2 teams, he has a 193 ERA and 14 innings pitched. What do we got for strikeouts? He's got 18 strikeouts to 7 walks, 11.6 strikeouts per 9, but 4.5 walks. Now, the walks are kind of high, which is a little scary, but that 11.9 strikeouts, that is what you want to see. With how much the Tigers have had pitch to contact relievers this past year, where Chafin was really their only arm, and they lost Alex Lang to injury for the rest of the year, and Jason Foley can't strike anybody out. He's just so contact heavy so far this year. And even Tyler Holton's strikeout rate isn't that great. They need an arm like this, somebody that can come in. Now, he's going to be a little wild for sure, but you look at what Federer and company have done, to these guys in the last year, how they've been optimizing arms. You got to give them credit for that. The winning hasn't really translated on the field, but you can definitely tell that they're good at fixing pitchers and optimizing these guys. Jack Flaherty, perfect example. I think this kid will be up in the big leagues sometime soon, Chase Lee. And I'm excited to see what he can do because they need him for sure. All right, so then they got Jose Montalvo. This kid, it looks like he's actually hit and pitched a little bit. Um, let's see, he's an A plus ball right now. He's 22, pitched 59 innings, 73 strikeouts to 19 walks. So that's pretty good. It seems like he's controlling the strike zone really well. Honestly, he's at A plus ball right now, which is high A. He's 22. This is an arm I'm not even going to really dive into or really talk about. We'll see if he makes an impact in the next 3 years. All right, then we go to the next trade here, which is Mark Canha for who they trade him for? They got Eric Sylvia. Okay, so Eric Sylvia, he's 21 years old, another pitcher. So far this year at Double A, and 28 games appeared, 41 innings. He has 51 strikeouts to 18 walks, which is not bad. Only walk at 3.9. 11 strikeouts per 9, which is good. They need to swing and miss. I don't know much about this guy. Being at Double A, they'll probably get assigned to Erie. He could be a guy, pending on pitching depth, that we could see sometime next year in the big leagues. So at least it's somebody close to impacting the big leagues potentially next year. So for Mark Canha, who, really was he had a great month of April, had a decent May, completely disappeared in June until the All-Star break and most of July. This guy had only hit, I think, 12 home runs last year, and I think he had 6 home runs in the first month. And then he just completely went dry. I mean, I think he had like an 0 for 21 somewhere in there in June and July. So, getting something like that, a guy that could potentially, another reliever profile that could come up potentially help you next year, great. For Mark Canha, another guy that you traded for, you picked up his option for $12 million. Perfectly fine deal with that. Expiring contract, good, great. Absolutely stoked. You can't be pissed at something like that. Okay, so now we move in to what everyone's talking about and what I want to say for last. I was about to come on here fuming mad if the Tigers did not trade Jack Flaherty, because they're not going to extend him, and then they come out with this bullshit that, we're just letting teams know that if we don't trade him, we're extending the qualifying offer. And with how Flaherty's pitched, we're going to assume his rate stats would be right about where they are now. He, probably would have had an ERA well under 350. And he's going to come out of this looking for probably a 3 to 4 year deal worth over $50 million, which means the Tigers would have got a Type A compensation pick for him. So they're letting teams know, hey, he's a guy that you're going to have to pay it. If you don't pay what we want in trade, and you want to sign him, you're going to lose basically a first round pick in the compensation round and the competitive balance round if you don't trade for him. So all this pitching's going, the Marlins are moving, and then finally at like 5:50, the Tigers announced the trade of Jack Flaherty to the Dodgers. And to be really honest with you guys, and I was going to make a video about this, but I wanted to stick true to my word of coming out to trade them. I was really hoping the Tigers were going to trade Tarik Skubal. But the Orioles were so dead set. And, if I'm an Orioles fan right now, remember how I came on here earlier in the season and I said I'm over prospects? The most true statement I've ever heard in baseball is flags fly forever. And that's World Series banners flying out in center field. If you're an Orioles fan and you have a system that deep, would you not want to give up your 3 top prospects to get Tarik Skubal for 3 shots at a World Series ring? Your system is still deep as shit. Your on-field talent right now is absolutely insanely good. You have your core already in the big leagues. Would you not want to go out and take 3 shots with that young core and have Corbin Burnes and Tarik Skubal? I really wanted them to trade Skubal and get Jackson Holliday and Norby and maybe even Kjerstad, because the Tigers lack impact talent that's on the horizon to come up and contribute soon. And we're going to touch on this too after we talk about this a little bit more about where the current state of the Tigers are. So they traded Drake Flaherty, and initially I was very underwhelmed. So they got Trey Sweeney, and Trey Sweeney he's 24 years old. He's in AAA. This year he's hitting 255, 334 on base with a 427 slug, 760 OPS. He's got 13 homers, 62 RBIs, 22 doubles, but 44 walks, 118 strikeouts. All I could see in my head is a Spencer Torkelson approach. To where this guy, he has, he's got 22 doubles, 13 homers, and 3 triples. So what is that, 25, 38 extra base hits? And how many plate appearances is that, 440? Okay, fine, great and dandy. But you're in AAA. And this guy was a former first-round pick of the Yankees in 2021, so he was drafted high. This is a guy that could think of that could hit. So far you look at his numbers through the rest of the minor leagues. He has hit. I mean, he hit in the NCAA, where really, he hit 382 with 14 homers. That's pretty damn impressive with Illinois. But you look at his time at the Yankees, 66 strikeouts to 118, or 66 walks to 118 strikeouts. Even in college, let's see, he had 46 walks and 24 strikeouts. So that's a whole different league. But looking at his numbers and the underlying factors, it really surprised me that Scott Harris went out and traded for somebody that, first off, his on base would be barely above league average in the major leagues. His slugging percentage is good. There's definitely power there, and he's got extra base power, and he's going to put some balls into the seats, which is fantastic. But he's already 24, still not in the big leagues yet, closing in on the big leagues. That really surprised me that they went after that type of profile hitter when Scott Harris is all about dominating the strike zone. And if you look at the current Tigers roster, Justin Henry Malloy was a guy that was almost a 1-to-1 guy. And for a stretch of 50 plate appearances, he struck out 50% of the time. And this is a guy that was 1-to-1. This was a guy that was walking more than he was striking out in the fucking minor leagues. And then you're going to bring up this kid who has continued to strike out more and more, and his walk rate is down a little bit this year. And the one thing that you could say about the Tigers is that what they haven't done, for all they've done doing a good job with their pitching development, is their hitting development. Spencer Torkelson has spent more time in AAA this year than he did last time he was sent down in 2022. He's got more plate appearances and games appeared in than he did a year and a half ago. So it worries me a little bit about this kid's potential upside. You see guys like Justin Henry Malloy, how long it took Colt Keith. Winsale Perez has done a nice job to stick in the big leagues, and you can definitely tell he's made an adjustment. But I don't know how this kid's plate approach is going to translate coming to the big leagues, because you can't have somebody up here who in 96 games has struck out 118 times. Do the math. If you give this kid 140 games, that is a 200 strikeout bat. That's fucking Javi Baez levels. You can't strike out that much. And I'm genuinely surprised that Scott Harris went after this kind of a thing. I don't know if he's going to, this is a guy that has this kind of impact and we can help make him better and help with the swing decisions. I don't know. But, the one thing that I will say that I'm excited about this kid is, out of all the prospects in this haul of players that they traded, so many of these guys aren't close to the major leagues. Only a couple of these dudes might contribute in 2025. And really, only 2 of them have a chance to compete this year. Sweeney and I think that Lee kid from Texas. Really are the only 2 ones that have a chance to compete this year and help the team out and see what they can do. With Sweeney, with how bad Javier Baez is, Sweeney needs to be, and really third base being a black hole, Sweeney needs an opportunity. Honest to God, because You can't keep giving someone like Zach McKinstry opportunities to be on a major league roster. Zach McKinstry is not a player that should be on an MLB roster. Zach McKinstry should be like fucking Tom Selleck and Mr. Baseball. He should be in the fucking KBO. That's where Zach McKinstry should be. The only time Zach McKinstry is worth a shit is when he's making YouTube videos with Trevor Bauer and he's hitting home runs off of fucking nobodies. That's the only place Zach McKinstry is even a viable option. He is not good. I am tired of watching him. He's hitting under 200. He has maybe 2 hits a week. Now, mind you, a couple of them hits have been a bigger hits. Now he's had a couple of big triples. Who cares? He can't hit. He's hitting under 200. Defensively, he's ungodly awful. You can't play him at shortstop. And I know the Tigers have played him at shortstop because of Javier Baez was hurt. Then he came back. Now he's on the bereavement list. Javier Baez had a jolt of life into him for 3 days because he had 3 home runs. And, that magic juju wore off. You can't sit here and constantly play Zach McKinstry. He's got to go. I would rather give this kid, who at least has some power, that at least has some pop, and he's actually a left side of the diamond infielder. He's played shortstop and third base. Let's see what this kid can do. Because, something? You almost climbed your way back to 500, but you're already slipping back off of it. Now you lose your best reliever. You're having 3 fucking bullpen games a week. Now Ryan Kreidler's back up in the big leagues temporarily. No, it's time. Let's see what this kid can do. So at least in this Jack Flaherty trade, you get somebody that, if it was up to me, he'd be up here this week. That's thanks. He's had 96 games down at AAA. He's got 13 home runs. He's got 22 doubles and 3 triples. Guess what? That sounds way better than Zach McKinstry. I don't even give a shit about the adjustment period. Let August be his adjustment period. Let's see what he can do with the glove. Can you feel the ball that doesn't go between your 5-hole? Can you do that? Zach McKinstry can't. Can you make the underhand flip to short and turn a double play? Zach McKinstry can't. I'm over Zach McKinstry. He needs to go. So the Trey Sweeney move, I like. At least he's a guy that's close to helping in the big leagues. And then they got this guy named Thyron Lazariano. He's only 20 years old. He is a catcher and first baseman. Numbers really aren't anything to write home about so far. 247, 371, 466 career /line, 836 OPS. He's already hit, though, 40 home runs in 230 games. So he's got some power. His numbers this year, though, aren't pretty in high A ball. 220. His power's taken a step back. He's only got 7 homers, 82 strikeouts to 49 walks. So I don't know what his story is, and I don't know, why the power's come back. I don't know if it's because he's so young and he's still adjusting to another level. I don't know what his potential ceiling is. I don't know about scouting report, but he's another guy. We'll talk about him in potentially 3 years, see where he is. He's a catcher, first baseman. So, overall, let's put a bow on all this. Initially, I was very underwhelmed by this Jack Flaherty trade. Didn't really mind the rest of them, the Chafin, Kelly, all that other stuff. Didn't bug me none because of what those were. But somebody made a good point that, I think it was Mike Farron, made a good point that not a single top 100 prospect was traded. And you would think with the Stowers and Norby trade to the Miami Marlins, they're like, wow, that's a haul for Rogers. But they're not even top 100 prospects, which is hard to believe because of that Orioles farm system, how deep it is. But not a single top 100 prospect was traded in the entirety of all the trades that had happened. So if you're going to weigh the Jack Flaherty trade on that barometer, it's honestly right on course, right on trade market value with what was being dealt at the trade deadline. You as much as you want to be pissed and much as you want to say it was underwhelming and Scott Harris didn't do a good job, listen, at least this year, players were traded. He added depth to the organization. If you're going to bitch about anything, And it's that my biggest complaint still is that it's been 2 off seasons. You have all this prospect capital. You have yet to show you can develop hitters at a major league level, and you can bring hitters through the ranks at a consistent pace, and they come up to the big leagues and contribute. Justin Honey Malloy has contributed some, and he has made a bit of an adjustment, but he's still striking out a lot. He's still barely hitting over 200. The powers look nice. That's fine, but the walk rate still ain't what it was. He's still figuring it out. Colt Keith, okay. You can mark that one, put that feather in your cap. I'll give that one to you, Scott Harris. And then you look at Winsale Perez. He has hit better. The power's starting to show up. Sure. But, we'll see what his numbers look like at the end of the year. He's still nothing to write home about. He's still, on most teams, a 4th outfielder. The switch hitting ability helps, but he's still a 4th outfielder on most teams. So, with being so stubborn with adding actual impact bats to free agency and being so stubborn and prospect hug so hard with so many of these players, and you still lack an impact bat. You have two, I'll say 2, because of how good Colt Keith has been. You have 2 hitters on your entire roster, with sometimes a third, and Matt Vierling, if he gets hot, the couple weeks a month that he gets hot, sometimes a third hitter that can do anything, that can impact a game. The rest of it is you're floating down a river with no fucking paddle, and you hope to God that you hit the right rock that knocks you the right direction and you get closer to the shore. Most nights that's what it is. It's such a bumpy ride, you don't even know how you're going to get to 5 runs. Now when they had that little stretch where they won like 12 of 14, or what was it, 11 of 14, the offense was averaging almost 6 runs a game, it was a little different. Now you lost Riley Green, now you lost, Mark Canha had been hitting a little bit better, now you lost Mark Canha, and you're still out there playing the same trash every single night. You got the ghost of what used to be Javi Baez. Like, you're starting Zach McKinstry. He's been getting so many. The only a positive is they finally got rid of fucking Akil Baddoo. Like, they sent him down, and then I forget who got hurt, and they brought him back up for 3 games, and they're like, yeah, no, dude, you still suck. You're going on AAA, and they brought up Ryan Vilade. But now, they got, Blair Madris playing first base, and this guy sucks. I know he's hitting a little bit okay over the last couple of days. Like, he's hit over 300. But you want to tell me what this guy's going to hit over 250 plate appearances? I bet you his average will be under 200. He stinks. Like Ryan Vilade he's hit all right, but, he's not an everyday major leaguer. Gio Urshela is not an everyday major leaguer. You don't know what you get out of Dylan Dingler. I love the power potential, and I'm happy to see what he can do. But, hey, newsflash, guys, we've read this story the last 3 years. Tigers rookie struggles out of the gate. That's probably what it's going to end up being. This is a guy first time in the major leagues. And you see how long it took Colt Keith, the guy who's a fucking absolute pure hitter, how long it took him to adjust and start being a contributor. I'm just tired of this organization being this offseason, I will give Scott Harris one more pass this year, because at least he executed a full trade deadline. At least he traded off assets and got some kind of influx of players, to help out potential minor league depth a couple of them could help you this year, and at least, not compete, but at least see, hey, are these guys any worth a shit for, a 2-month tryout like August and September. At least you kind of got something like that in these trades to, show something in your organization that these guys could potentially be something. I wasn't surprised that they went so pitching heavy at the trade deadline, because if you look at how bad their pitching depth is now, it's just insane how this organization is flip-flopped. Where it was an Al Avila, you had Mize, Manning, Skubal, and then in the last couple of years, it was supposed to be Wilmer Flores was supposed to be this guy that come up and do something. And Jackson Jobe got hurt, and that hurt his timeline, because now he's not going to be up here until, next year at the earliest. And they're not going to skip him. He's not going to skip AAA. He's going to go through there. So now, you're super thin on organizational pitching depth. And now your bullpen went from, you used to have swing and miss guys like with Jose Cisnero and Chafin that one year, and then Alex Lang when he first came up. You know, you used to have swing and miss, and now you don't have any swing and miss. It's all contact. You know, so now you're getting to the point where your prospects have been in the league a few years. They haven't panned out to what they should have been, because you go ahead and look at your major prospects over the last 8 years, which is Mize, Manning. Skubal wasn't a major prospect, but he turned himself into one because he wasn't drafted very high. Torkelson, Green. Most of these dudes haven't been anything. Two of those guys have contributed to your organization and done anything. And that's Green and Derek Skubal. Torkelson can't get out of AAA. Matt Manning's hurt and he can't get out of AAA. Casey Mize just got transferred to the 60-day IL. You had 3 bullpen days this past week. What the fuck is going on down there? Like, how can Scott Harris sit here and look you in a straight face and talk about organizational improvement and organizational philosophy getting better and making these players better? You're not making these players better because you don't do anything to make your team better. You can't polish a turd, put gold on it, and still not expect me to look at it and go, it's a turd. It's a turd. It stinks like shit. Zach McKinstry stinks like shit. Jake Rogers this year stinks like shit. Ryan Kreidler is a quad A player. He stinks. Gio Urshela stinks. Blaine Madris stinks. Ryan Vilade stinks. Matt Vierling this year, he's been okay. But for the most part, he's a 4th outfielder. Don't look me in the face and tell me that there's fucking progress. I'm just not buying it. But I'm not going to sit here and shit on Scott Harris too bad. Because like I said, he did a full trade deadline. He actually moved some pieces. But just still not... It was just looking at the market, it is what the market was. No top 100 prospects are moved. But you really realistically got out of all those trades 2 guys that might help you contend this, not contend, but can help you compete this year. And you look at the rest of your organization, you look at the rest of your organizational depth, most of these dudes are high A, double A ball. You don't know if these guys are going to be your future. You don't know if these guys are going to burn out between AAA and AA. These guys are 3 years away. This offseason is ungodly crucial. Because if he goes out one more year and we get more Mark Canha signings and we get more Gio Urshela signings, if we get the Ollie's parts bin signings for one more offseason and they say, run it back, boys, we're taking another shot at it. With this same core, and then next year, when they only win 74 fucking games, I got to listen to Scott Harris one more time tell me how this organization that can't even field 5 starting pitchers because your minor league depth is so thin. Your minor league depth can't produce, even in AAA, your minor league depth can't produce 2 starting pitchers. Kaider Montero is it. You can't field anybody else. Your organizational depth is that thin that you have to have 3 bullpen days in 8 days. And you're going to sit here and tell me about how your organization is progressing. And you're going to sit here and talk about the progress. The caveats it with, well, we're not there yet, but we're doing it. Don't sit here and tell me this bullshit. And your team can't even field 5 starting fucking pitchers because your organizational depth is that thin. But you're going to look me in the eyes and say, yep, we're making progress. But caveat it that we're not there yet. No shit. No shit, Scott Harris. I can fucking tell you that. Because your team can't even score fucking 8 runs in 3 games. Like, come on, dude. We're not dumb. So, anyways, before I get way off track of this thing, because and this is why I haven't been coming on here and making videos, because it's the same fucking rant over and over again, because I get so tired of it. And this video is long as shit. I was trying to make it 15 minutes long, and I way went over that. But Tigers made trades. Scott Harris finally had a full trade deadline. You can be mad at the return. Not trying to defend Scott Harris too much, but that's what the market was out there, guys. No top 100 prospects got moved. At least he got something out there. You can be like me and be disappointed that most of that stuff is still years away, and it's still looking like the Tigers are going to try to punt next year again, and it's going to be more of the same corporate bullshit of we're progressing, and we're going to win soon. We're trying to build something sustainable that's going to last. And I'm tired of Dan Dickerson saying that and trying to be a mouthpiece for the organization because he gets paid by them. That shit's getting old too, where he's trying to sit here and just ride Scott Harris's nuts. Well, they're trying to build a core. They're trying not to have a window. Fuck, man, give me a window. I'm tired of fucking staring at the wall. It's been since 2014. Fucking A, I'll gladly take a window. I'll stare through some fucking cinder blocks with holes in it at this point and watch this shit for another fucking 10 years. Fucking A, man. But Tigers make trades. And what's your opinion on it, guys? If you made it through this whole video, I appreciate you. I don't know when I'll be back. Have a good one. Go Tigers.